I'm just going to get it going, even though. All right, everybody, welcome back to the third episode of 162. Today is Sunday, April 18th, and we are here live for Sunday Night Baseball between the Cubs and the Braves, or the artist formerly known as the Cubs versus the Braves. I'm not sure what we're watching right now, but thank you. Quick thank you, first of all, to the over 500 people, Tony, who have either watched or listened to the first couple of episodes that you and I have spewed out, which I feel like is saying something. I mean, who are these people that are watching it? Thank you to them.
Yeah, I don't know if they're like just happening upon it or if they pity us or something like that. But
we'll take it. Whatever reason,
more than we thought. Yeah,
absolutely. And just a quick introduction. I'm Adam Vasquez here along with the coach, Tony Miller. Tony, you had a good weekend. You were out fishing, you said?
Yeah, it was fantastic. Opportunity to watch a little extra baseball. Parents had the kids, so we had fun.
Oh, nice.
I've been looking forward to this tonight. So I've been waiting all weekend for tonight.
Waiting all weekend for Sunday night. Shout out Carrie Underwood. Well, quick to start us off, a couple anniversaries. We got a note. First of all, happy anniversary to Vin Scully. Today, April 18th, in 1950 is the first time the Dodgers broadcasting legend ever sat behind a mic. Some people have compared your voice to Vin Scully's, Tony, so I thought we should bring that up. And secondly, happy anniversary to Phillies great Michael Jack Schmidt. In 1987, today he hit his 500th home run. So congrats to both of them. Also testing out that anniversary thing. Thought we might start bringing those in. You've mentioned today in baseball. There's so many good facts you can mention.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
But tonight we are actually live streaming during Sunday Night Baseball. We're currently in like the fourth or fifth inning of what's been a pretty electric game in terms of runs scored. I think it's 6-2. And as we watch tonight, we'll do a roundup like we have been doing of the NL and AL. We have a few facts to throw in, and then we're going to be joined by Cubs super fan and the owner of 323 Sports, Keith Rogers. I'm excited to have Keith on. Both Tony and I are wearing apparel provided by Keith's company, 323 Sports, and he's going to talk to us about how he's sort of a child of the South. He grew up in North Carolina, so you would think Braves fan, but has some ties to Chicago and to WG. You know, the feed of WGN was in his house, which helped him become a Cubs fan. So excited to talk to him about that. Before we do anything from the weekend, you want to touch on, Tone?
Cubs just hit a home run, so it's at least kind of a ball game right now.
That's what I need to see.
Riz it's kind of always a home run, but yeah, a home run.
No, we take it.
Yeah, home run nonetheless. Anything to make this a little bit more exciting. Otherwise, people are going to tune out.
Yes, me included. I need the Cubs to get hot here, because if the Braves win, this might be the first consecutive days they are not in the basement of the NL East. So hoping they can keep that going. But Keith's going to join us in just a second. Before he does, let's do the NL roundup. I'll dive in. Let's start with the series that everyone has been glued to all weekend. Dodgers versus Padres. Friday night started off with a bang. Shout out Mike Breen. Ryan Weathers and Walker Buehler both gave solid performances and were supported by some pretty terrible defense on both sides. Pretty normal flow of game, and then around the ninth inning, getting close to 1 a.m. Eastern time, which is, I'm very old. I go to bed very early. This was a struggle for me, but the electricity started flowing right around then. Eric Hosmer singles home Machado to tie the game for the Friars, and then just another shout out to the announcers. They were terrific. I know last time I said I'm not an announcer guy. We've had some terrific announcing this weekend, and that series was a definite note on that. If you close your eyes during that game at all, you would have thought it was happening in late September or October. Just the crowd, the announcing, everything about it. And as the game got older, we got more and more into playoff mode. We had some scuffles, we had some bad blood, we had some jawing and some desire to fight, which is a beautiful thing to see in April. And then in the 12th, the vintage Dodgers came out. We had some clutch hits. Seager goes yard to take the lead, and then David Price, of all people, come in and close it out in the 12th. They rested for a few hours, and then Saturday followed suit. Kershaw versus Darvish on the mound, more skirmishes. Old man Kershaw jawing at Jurickson Profar was amazing. Profar gently telling Mr. Kershaw to lower his tone in a very genteel way. And aside from that, there just wasn't that much drama really on the field, but a nice 2-0 win from the Dodgers with Mookie closing it out. Mookie seems like a player that a lot of teams would like to have, specifically the Red Sox. They could use a center fielder like him or right fielder like him. And then today we had Bauer and Snell. The Padres get even or take at least one of the three. So that was good for them. Otherwise, in the NL, everything was kind of boring. I mean, the Phillies didn't do much until today. Bryce went yard. Nola went 9 shut. And the only other note I was going to ask you about is if the Marlins are actually good. I don't know because I haven't watched enough of their games, but I've seen some highlights of Jesus Aguilar, and I really like the way he plays, and Jazz Chisholm as well. I also read something that Derek Jeter handpicked Jazz Chisholm. Like he was on some other team, and Jeter constructed a trade. So they beat up on the Braves last weekend, and now are trying to kind of stay at 500. But what do you think about the Marlins?
I think Don Mattingly's an underrated manager. Dodger fans would definitely disagree with me on that, but I enjoyed him as a player, but I also enjoy him as a manager as well. I don't have a stat on this, but I know he gets ejected a lot from baseball games, and when he gets ejected, it usually is a spectacle. So if you want some fun watching, go back and look him up on YouTube for that. You just kind of blew by the fact that Tatis was back. I mean, the first game back, he hits a 410-foot home run.
He did hit that one bomb. He was pretty quiet though. Otherwise, I feel like he's maybe struggling to get the rhythm of things, but hopefully he'll get going.
If you're aren't you a little worried if you're a Padres fan that he could re-injure that shoulder when you're swinging that hard repeatedly?
Yeah, I think that is a worry. And then you had your guys. You had Snell, Darvish. You had a good lineup up out there at home and drop 2 of 3. It's we know the Dodgers are good, but yeah, Padres fans, they want that to be a rivalry so bad, which I respect as a fan of an underdog city, but you got to win some games for that to happen.
Are those the 2 best teams in baseball?
You were asking. I don't know. I mean the Dodgers for sure, no doubt. The Padres are one of the most watchable teams in baseball for sure. I don't know if they're the best yet.
I think if I said that to most people are like, no. But then my next question is, well, then who would you replace? The Red Sox homers would say them, but as we'll get to in just a few moments, that after today, that's kind of out. But yeah, if you look at like records and that kind of stuff, it's probably closer or bigger than. We'll get Keith's opinion on it. Maybe he has an opinion about it. So.
The only other thing I would say against that is I think the Giants are technically in second in that division, which.
Yes, they are. So
being third in your division is a tough look. But yeah, tell us what happened in the AL before we bring Keith on.
Yankees dropped 3 more to the Rays this weekend. We were talking about this before, man. They're like already 1-5 against Tampa Bay this year. Already played 6 games against them. I'm not sure what's more underwhelming, the Yankees offense or their pitching. Garrett Cole had 10 strikeouts today, but that's aside from that, like the highlights for their pitching staff, few and far between this year.
Yeah.
We should throw that up on a poll. Like more disappointing Yankees hitting or underwhelming pitching. That sounds like clickbait, but I'm all for that.
Just
and early on,
Yankee fans.
Just to trigger Yankees fans here. So Yankees currently sit in the AL East, 5 games back.
By the way, last in the AL. It's like the first. I should have written it down, but it's the first time in forever that they've been last in the AL. It's crazy.
Yeah. So 5 games back behind the Boston Red Sox. And so that's the next team we'll talk about here. We wrote our show notes before today. So like Boston Red Sox, are they really good? And then they lose 2 games today. So it's probably answers the question. Before that, though, they had won 9 out of 10 and their pitching staff had a 3.38 ERA, which was pretty solid, but faux good. I don't know. Maybe obviously not going to beat that hot the rest of the year, but and then finally, the Minnesota Twins, the remainder of their series this weekend was canceled with COVID. Never a good thing, obviously, when you're diagnosed with COVID, but maybe the break can be some sort of like reset for the Twins. They'd lost 6 of their last 7 prior to the weekend, and they got the A's, on Monday, but they may not even play that one. So a little bit of a break here already early on in the season for the Twins.
What's weird with them is I threw them in there because I know you have some Twins ties, but what's weird with them is they're statistically not a bad team. Like they're hitting the ball, right. They're pitching decent. I mean, I think they've had solid defense. They've just had some weird games and some things not really break their way, but they're a team that the last several years has been built for the regular season. So it's strange to see them struggling. Hopefully they
and that's
turn it
the
around.
comment that I get from my family members in Minnesota. Like they're always excited about the regular season. And it's like, oh, then the playoffs are here. And then reality hits. And so it kind of ends the same way every year, which I expected to do again. I think they were predicted to finish third in their division, but in a division that's kind of wide open. So they could very well make the playoffs again. And basically the repeat performance again this year.
For sure. All right. Well, we got Keith Rogers, aka K Nasty, also the owner of 323, as we mentioned, giving Tony and our hats coming in. Keith, I don't know if you knew this. First of all, welcome to the show.
Hey, thank you guys. Can y'all hear me all right?
We got you.
You got me.
I don't know if you knew this, but Friday was the 73rd anniversary of the WGN Cubs partnership. And I know you grew up watching WGN, but so felt like it was a good time. That plus the Cubs coming on. Good time to bring on the super fan.
Absolutely. No, I benefited a lot from WGN. I didn't have cable TV. My parents still don't have cable TV. But man, if I ever had a friend, I was kind of known amongst my friends as a junkie for WGN. I don't know what other kids watched, but if I ever had a friend that had cable, I was like, hey, do you have cable TV? They were like, yeah. I'm like, can you turn to WGN real quick? And they were like, WGN? Why? Why WGN? Just to see if the Cubs were on. And it was literally absolutely devastating. If I ever had a friend, I got to his house, found his TV, found his remote, turned to WGN, and the White Sox were playing. I mean, it was absolutely devastating. I would just be like, oh my goodness, I cannot believe this is happening, because I just didn't get to watch the Cubs very much. I just, we lived for Saturday, what was it, Fox Sports Saturday Game of the Week. And man, I don't know how we would find. I remember waking up Saturday mornings and Cubs would be one of the Fox Saturday games of the week. Well, in my area, of course, we grew up in North Carolina. Very rarely did they ever actually pick the Cubs as the game of the week in our area. But every now and then, we'd get the Cubs as the game of the week, and we'd be able to watch it. So those are just big moments, man.
Most people know you as a basketball guy. How'd you end up baseball and specifically the Cubs?
Well, really, I had a lot of family ties in Chicago. So my grandfather, my mom grew up in Chicago, right outside of one of the suburbs right outside of the city. So really, as a little kid, some of my earliest memories is going to Wrigley Field with my grandfather. And so that was back in the day where you could pack your own lunches. So we obviously never bought food there. And we would pack peanuts and sandwiches and peanut butter and jellies and all that jazz. You could take it into the ball field. So some of my earliest memories is going to Wrigley Field, and I just absolutely fell in love with the Cubs. We were absolutely horrible. But it seemed like every time we were there, we won. And so we developed some mojo between me and my brothers. It was like, hey, we're good luck. We were fully convinced if we lived in Chicago that the Cubs would win the series. And then it just hooked me, man. The Cubs just absolutely hooked me. And I would often tell people, like, I wouldn't wish this curse on anyone to be hooked by the Cubs. Like, I couldn't help it. I was just fascinated by them. And I would eat, drink, sleep, anything Chicago Cubs. And it didn't matter if we were, 20 games out of first place. I was a kid on Triple Play 98. Triple Play 98, I went and bought that game because Sammy was on the front. I was Sammy Sosa, just addict. And Triple Play 98, I would literally just sit there and simulate season after season after season after season, simulate games until I'd actually come across the Cubs would actually be doing one pretty good in a simulation. I'd be like, you know what? I need to step in and play this game. I can't afford to simulate this one. So I would step in and play, and I would just do that over and over and over until the Cubs would finally win the series on AAA 98, which took a while, which we were actually bad in 98. But anyway, that was
that's awesome. Wait, 98, is that what year was Bartman?
Bartman was 2003. Is that like that squad?
Oh,
no,
okay. So
Bartman was 2003. That's actually a legendary story with me and Dustin. I don't even know if you know that, but me and Dustin were down in the basement watching that series against the Marlins, 2003 NLCS, and that was when Dustin and me were living in the same house, and we had we were living in the basement, and we had a sign going down in the basement, and it was "Welcome to Wrigleyville." That's what me and Dustin put that sign up. Also home of Dustin and Keith. Would have been Derek, but Derek bailed out on us, and he was already living in Tennessee. Well, after that game, it was game 6. We were about to go to the World Series. Game was pretty much over. Of course, the famous Bartman play. We ended up losing the game, and we're eternal optimists. Of me and Dustin were coming back. All right, we'll win game 7. We'll win game 7. All right, we're down. We end up getting beaten game 7. I'm in full out tears because Cubs had not, for listeners who don't know, Cubs hadn't been in the World Series since 1945. Obviously, I wasn't alive. They hadn't won a World Series since 1908. So just to be in the World Series was going to be epic for us. And we blew that chance, should have had it. We went outside and we hit. I was crying I think I was 18, 19, whatever I was. I went up to that sign and absolutely, I ripped it down, just crumbled it up, Wrigley Field, home of Dustin Keith. I threw it in the trash can, and Dustin was kind of sitting on the couch. He wasn't in full out tears yet. And he stood up in stoic fashion and walked over to the trash can, and he grabbed the paper, unwrinkled it, and taped it right back on the wall. And he looked at me and he said, "That's not coming down till we win the series." And then we went outside.
Good big brother.
We went outside. It was probably midnight, and my dad lives. They live out in the country, and we took our drivers and we hit absolute bombs into the woods for like 20 straight minutes. I've never hit my driver so straight, and we hit bomb after bomb after bomb. And who knows? Hopefully, some of those cows didn't eat those golf balls, but that's what we did in 2003.
So how did it feel, fast forward several years, how did it feel with the World Series run?
Oh, it was unbelievable. I mean, it was kind of, you just kind of get to the point where you're not sure if it's going to happen. And, I mean, especially for me with a lot of my family, especially my grandfather, he lived his entire life. He died a few years before that. He lived his entire life and never got to see the Cubs win a series. And, I think he may have remembered them in 45 playing in it. He was obviously maybe 10 years old or something. But, and so most of my family, all my uncles and, everybody had never seen the Cubs even play in the World Series. So you just you assume it'll happen to you, but as you get older, you think it might not. And so it was 2016 was just unbelievable. Nothing will probably be able to top that in my life. Are you with some of the other Cubs fans? Like, do you feel like there should have been more? Oh, for sure. I mean, it's like we definitely weren't that good for most of my life. We haven't been that good. I had a funny story with my son. He's young, but he kind of grew up with the Cubs were decent. And one point we were watching a game, and the Cubs were winning, and he kind of sighed and just said, "The Cubs always win." And I was like, I had this moment where I was like, what in the world, man? Like, we never win. Like, what are you talking about? And anyway, and so we could have. Obviously, there's some years that we blew chances for sure, even before my lifetime. But 2003 was really stung because it's hard to win a World Series, man. I mean, it really is. It's hard to win a World Series. So anytime they kind of come around, it's special. I think, this past 5 or 6 year run, I think we could have put ourselves in better chances for sure. But we played pretty well. 15, obviously 16, 17, and we put ourselves in some chances, and we just got cold at the wrong time. But 16 was amazing. So if we wouldn't have won in 16, man, I don't know what happened. That would be hard because these last 5 or 6 years we knew we had good talent, and so to not capitalize on that talent would have been like, dang, we might have to wait another 10 years.
Keith, tell us where you were at when the Cubs won and what that experience was like.
Yeah, so this is hard to believe, and actually I had to use this in a couple sermon illustrations. God was teaching me something, but so me and my business partner had this trip planned to China for months and months. And obviously that's something you plan out for probably 10 months in advance. And I was talking to Derek one day, my brother, and it was probably June or July, honestly. It was pretty early on in the season. The Cubs were first place, and we were having a good year. And we had just come off the NLCS, and Derek's the one who mentioned to me. Derek was like, "When are you in China again?" And I was like, "October or something." I threw out the dates, and he was like, "Have you checked the Major League playoff schedule?" And I was like, "No." I mean, Cubs fans do not plan anything around the World Series.
Right.
I mean, it's just like you don't even think about that, or late October. And I was in my car. It was one of those moments you just had that sick feeling, like you absolutely knew the World Series was going to be when I was in China. I just knew it right when Derek said it. I was like, he's like, "You might need to check that out." So I did. I was in my car. I think I was driving to the office, and I got to the office and I pulled up the schedule, and sure enough, literally the day I'm in like it was a 10-day trip to China. The day after I arrived to China is game 1 of the World Series. And game 7 of the World Series is the day I'm leaving China. And I was like,
wow.
Oh my goodness. Like if the Cubs are in the World Series, I'm in China to be all 7 games if there is 7 games. So of course Derek was like, "You might need to cancel that trip." And I was like, we're talking, it's like July at this point. I'm like, I remember seriously thinking, I went through all the price line or whatever. I got all the costs to cancel the trip. It was going to be relatively expensive to cancel the trip. And I told Derek, I said, "Dude, if I cancel this trip, there's no way the Cubs win the World Series. Or play in the World Series. There's no way. Like, we would get bounced or whatever." I said, "But if I don't cancel this trip, we will play in the World Series." And so that was pretty much, and I fully committed. I was like, "We're going to play in the World Series. There's no doubt about it, because I'm going to be in China this entire time." And I was already starting to feel like my fanhood might be a little over the board. So maybe this was, God trying to teach me something. But sure enough, we kept the China trip. And so I watched every game. Well, first off, I was just so nervous I wouldn't be able to watch it. I watched every game,
right,
in Chinese, obviously, which was bad. But it was also what was bad. It was at 8:00 in the morning every time. It was like I'd wake up. I'm trying to get it work in our hotel wherever we're at. And fortunately, they were showing, because I couldn't get it streamed through internet or something. But fortunately, they were showing it on their TV. And so I watched all the games. I literally went to China to go to this convention, and I missed the morning session of like 2 or 3 days, because I was like, I'm not missing a World Series game. This is, massive. And so I was able to catch all the games. Cubs are down 3-1. It looks like we're done. And but one of the worst days was we took on the weekend. I'm sorry if this is a long story, but we took on the weekend. We took on the weekend. We were like, the guy we were with was just kind of crazy. He's like, "Dude, let's go to Vietnam for the weekend." We're like, "Seriously, we're going to go to Vietnam," which is like a 3-hour flight, whatever. And so we're like, "All right, let's go to Vietnam." And so we're like, we're never going to be over here again. Let's be honest. So we jump on a train to Hong Kong, and and then we get to Hong Kong and we jump on a flight to Vietnam. Well, we're in Vietnam. That's a whole nother story. But we had to take this cab down to this. We were trying to go down to Ha Long Bay, which is like kind of like a resort area. They actually filmed one of the Bond movies down there. It's like a touristy area. Well, we're in this car ride through Vietnam, and I've got no phone signal. And they're like, and this was during the middle of game 4. So we're down 2-1. I knew this was an important game because you don't go down 3-1. And it was something crazy. It was just like, it was going to be like $10 for every minute I'm connected to Wi-Fi or something like that. It was like, so I wasn't turning my phone on. And I was in the back seat of this car, this cab driver's driving. And it's literally during game 4. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to save my money and I'm just going to check it intermittently. And I did. And every time I'm sitting there bouncing around in the backseat of this car, and I finally, was willing to fork over the money to connect to my, to connect to the signal. and I found out the Cubs were down in the 8th inning. I was just absolutely bummed. So I was super ticked off in Vietnam. But then
I'm shocked you even went to Vietnam.
Yeah, we went, and it was like I was definitely peer pressured in by the guys I was with, and I'm a sucker for peer pressure. But then we got to the hotel. We were staying at Vietnam, and the next day was Game 5, and we came up super clutch in Game 5. And so we forced a Game 6, got back to China. I was able to watch Game 6, and then we tied in Game 6. I'm thinking, dude, we're going to win Game 7. The crazy thing is, I hadn't really even started. I can't remember at what point in the trip I started looking ahead at our flight schedule. Because it's like I knew we were leaving one day, but I hadn't really put everything together of all the times. Sure enough, our flight is that morning, and of course the game's on like 8:00 in the evening, and I'm like, oh my goodness, this is unbelievable. Like Game 7 World Series, I can't tell you how many countless thousands of Cubs games I've watched in my lifetime. Or me and Dustin used to laugh because we would follow games on CBS Sports Line, like pitch by pitch, just on my phone. Just like I would watch games that way. Here's Game 7 of the World Series of the Cubs, and I am literally going to be forced into a moment. I might not be able to follow the game 100%.
At all.
And the depth of this didn't pass me by. I said, this is not a coincidence. Something's going on here. There's something that can't be coincidental here. So I had the game on in the airport. I was waiting to be boarded to the last possible moment. And we were up 4-1. It was in the 3rd inning, 4th inning one, and we were up 4-1. I knew at that point, I knew the odds. Like, you're up 4-1. You have a probably 80 or 90% chance of winning that game. So I couldn't believe it. So I kept my phone on, obviously, even past all the signals where they're telling you turn your phone off. This plane will go down if you don't turn your phone off. I had my phone on, and I literally had it on until at some point in the air, a couple thousand feet, it just officially shut down. And supposedly you're going to get Wi-Fi on that plane. And obviously that was the first thing I was doing. I was paying whatever I needed for Wi-Fi. And I had already checked out the plane. They offered Wi-Fi on that plane, or that type of plane. The lady was like, yeah, we don't have Wi-Fi on this one for some reason. It went down, whatever. So I'm like, so my business partner's sitting there. He's laughing at me. I'm like, dude, this is a 4-hour flight because we had a 4-hour layover to Tokyo or something. And I'm like, it's the 4th inning, Game 7 of the World Series. I knew my brothers where they were at. All this thing. I said, I'm literally about to be out of contact with the world for 4 hours. So when I land, the biggest game of my life, the outcome will be there. And it was tough for me. I just sat there on the plane, just really contemplating life, contemplating a lot of things. I was contemplating, am I too invested in the Cubs right now? Am I a little too, I was wondering what's happening right now. I mean, so many thoughts were going through my mind. So when we land, of course, I'm trying to get cell phone signal, anything I can do to refresh. And finally, I mean, it seemed like it took forever on the runway. We were taxiing the runway, and I was able to refresh ESPN.com, and the headline said, obviously 8-7, Cubs win the 10th inning. But it said, the first headline said, was this the greatest World Series game of all time? I was just like,
and you said, I don't know.
I had so many mixed emotions because obviously I was massively ecstatic. The Cubs had just won the World Series. I was like, I didn't see it happen. And I was like, did I just miss the greatest game ever? And so I had a lot of mixed emotions. And I was looking for anyone I could high five. I wanted to cheer. I wanted to celebrate. I'm surrounded by Japanese people at this point, and I felt like no one got it. My business partner does not get stuff like that. He's just kind of like, whatever. And I was just kind of like, so I was going through the airport there, and I saw a dude wearing a Cubs hat, and I was like, oh my goodness, there's a dude wearing a Cubs hat. The Cubs just won the World Series. I walked immediately over to him, put my hand out, and was like, dude, yeah. He looked at me like, I'm like, I was just like, okay, clearly you don't know what just happened. Get that hat off your head. Like, I mean, it was like any Cubs fan would know, like, I don't care, start chest bumping people. And so that was kind of disappointing too. So I was able to call.
How many times have you seen it? How many times have you seen that game since then?
I've probably seen it 5-6 times since then. And I will say this, I don't know how my brothers did it, because I get so nervous at the end of games. I mean, like if we make a comeback here against Atlanta tonight, I'll be nervous in the 8th inning. Like I can't imagine the level of anxiousness they must have been dealing with. I would have probably been sick. And so there is a side of me that's kind of glad I didn't see it. I don't know what I would have done when Homer had hit that 3-run bomb in the 8th to tie it up. It was like his second homer of the year or something. Like, I don't know what I would have done at that moment, but so I don't envy them and the pain they went through of watching that, but I do wish we were all together. Obviously, I wish, because we would have probably done whatever we need to do to make that happen. But I've watched that game a lot, and it's just unbelievable. I can't imagine watching that live.
It is one of the most unique World Series ever, in that, I mean, I guess if you're from Cleveland, you were cheering for the Indians, but everybody else was cheering for the Cubs, obviously outside of even just Cubs fans, because everyone just wanted to see that happen. And I felt like the celebration afterwards, every brand was making commercials, being a part of it. And it was just a kind of like a national championship, even broader than just one city.
Yeah.
But I think that's what's cool about the Cubs. That I was talking earlier about the WGN thing, and it was a genius move by Wrigley to allow that and to just push Cub games to the entire country. There's not really any reason that they are the 3rd or 4th highest most valuable franchise, in the sense that, like you said, it's not like they win all the time like the Yankees. But people all over the country love them. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, for sure. And that win was unbelievable. Me and my buddy were texting about it last week. Actually, I brought it up because he asked me, his question he posed to me was Tiger's 19 Masters win the greatest win of all time, of every win? And I was just like, I started thinking about it. I'm like, he was like, well, I would guess 16 Cubs for you would be better. I said, yeah, 16 Cubs for me would be better because of everything that happened. And we started just tossing around different victories, and not necessarily talking about like come from behind, like, because I brought up NC State in '83, and that was kind of an upset, but just kind of like just monumental wins. The Cubs 16 has to be up there, because of all the longevity and everything that happened. So, and the fact that they don't win a lot, because obviously, like Carolina, I think that win they had, well, the Villanova Carolina game was kind of epic, and was it 16 or 17, but that wasn't like those teams win regularly. It wasn't like a once in 100 years type of thing.
No, it doesn't even compare.
But anyway,
so what's cool? What do you, as a Cubs fan this year, knowing where they are and stuff, like, what's your hope for their season? Are you in the camp that's trying to restock, maybe like lose some games and reconfigure the roster, or are you trying to get them to take this core for one more run?
Yeah, I feel like I'm always just like, let's win right now. Like I'm never in the mode of like, I feel like this team has no business still not winning the Central. I may be a homer. I know the Reds are good. I am impressed with the Reds, but what I get annoyed about is players underperforming, and I just still feel like, I know our pitching staff isn't great, but I feel like our offensive core is so much better than they're actually playing, and that's what annoys me. And it feels like that's been happening for the last couple of years, and so that's all I want to see. I really just want to see people performing at the level they should be, and if we're just not that good, I'm like, hey, let's retool and whatever, but we're great. We actually have really good players. I mean, Rizzo's great. Hayward's great. Javi has got so much ability. KB's great. We've got great pieces, and it's just like, I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's a clubhouse thing. So I would still think we could make a run and put some pieces together. But
well, we've got We've got an audience question for you. Tony, can you throw this up there in regards to what you're talking about right now? So Coach Wingreen asks the Cub fan, will the Brewers win a third straight series versus them in April?
I don't know what it is about the Brew Crew, but they annoy the devil out of me. They always beat us now, and I don't get it. They've absolutely set up camp inside our heads, and so most likely they will win a third straight series against us, because I just have no faith in our guys. I mean, yesterday we put up 13 runs. We're absolutely feast or famine. I mean, you may have already talked about that, but I think through the first 10 games, like, we had the least amount of hits like ever or something. Like, it's just, we'll come
two
out,
tonight.
We'll come out.
The Braves pitching staff. No, they said at the beginning of tonight's game, going into the game tonight, the Braves pitching staff had a higher average than the Cubs lineup, hitting.
I mean, that's just crazy. A joke. I mean, that's what I'm talking about. Like, I don't even care at this point. Like, it's like, if you're not good, you're not that great. But I hate underperforming. Like, we should be so much better than this. And 6-8 record isn't a horrible start, but we should easily be 9-5. I mean, but that's what annoys me if our bats. And so, the Brewers have been obviously great, the last several years. And, I feel like they have had our number a little bit. I don't know the exact split in games, but it's definitely felt that way, that they've had our number all the way back to what was it, 19 or whatever, where we won 95 games and ended in a end of the season tie with the Brew Crew, and then had to play that one game. Play one game to win the division, and we lost that, and then we ended up losing the wild card game. And it was an absolute horrendous way to end the year when you win 95 games. You lost your last two, and you're done. And I blame the Brew Crew.
Cool. Well, thanks for joining us, Keith, coming on, telling these stories. Hopefully they'll come back. It looks like it's 7-3 right now, top of the fifth, but doesn't look good. But maybe they'll rally. Yeah, we'll see what goes on.
You never know. It's feast or famine, boys. It might be a feast night again.
All right. Appreciate you. Appreciate you, Keith.
All right. See you guys.
See ya.
The only thing I could think of during that entire time was how we need to make sure that we get a VPN company to sponsor our podcast.
Why? Were we having issues?
When you're in China and you don't have access.
Oh, yeah.
Just connect to VPN. Watch your favorite baseball team.
That's
so if there's any VPN people out there, give us a holler.
That's right. Yeah, we need that for sure. Good stories. I love the story about the Wrigleyville sign coming down. That's classic. And then having to watch. I've never had, in 2008, I got to watch the Phillies. It also just, I didn't wait that long. But the Eagles in 2017, I waited, my life to that point. And my dad had waited his entire life, 55 years, whatever, 56 years. I just can't fathom not watching every second of that game in real time. That must have been so difficult being on the other side of the world, but that was fun. Hopefully the Cubs will make a little comeback here, although the bases are loaded right now for the Braves. So that's not great.
Hold your breath.
Anyway. All right. Well, that was fun. Thanks to Keith for coming on in 323 for, as I've mentioned before, giving us these sweet hats. Before we wrap up here and go watch the games, I want to mention a few series coming up this week. So I'm not sure exactly the cadence that we'll end up doing the show with, but a few series between now and Friday that I think I'll be paying attention to in the AL. White Sox versus Red Sox. So both of these teams have kind of performed counterintuitively. The Red Sox obviously have overperformed. The White Sox have a little bit underperformed, I think, aside from the Rodon no. So that will be an interesting series. To your point earlier, are the Red Sox legit? Are they, have they just had an easy schedule? I feel like that series will give some chances to expose that. And then we got a tweet from a listener, Tony Fox, asking for some Mariners content. So this week, Tony, you guys get the Dodgers. So best of luck. I don't know what else to say. to Seattle
I saw
fans.
that they before the year over under 103.5 wins. Do you have over?
The Mariners?
Or under that?
Oh, the Dodgers.
The Dodgers.
Yeah. Man, I don't know how you'd bet against them right now. I
So
think
2 years ago, when we played the last full season, they had 106 wins. That team was
Right.
really good, and this team looks about as good.
Yeah. Yeah, this team looks great, especially with a full season of Mookie. I mean, everybody's healthy, I guess. You know, the last couple seasons they've always had like one or two guys here or there, and they could have injuries, but guys like Max Muncy and Justin Turner, nobody even talks about them, and they're just mashing right now. So they're gonna be tough to beat. Other series, Braves are going to wrap up this series with the Cubs and then head to face the Yankees. So we talked about this last time, but the Yankees are already kind of in the toilet. It doesn't get any easier for them going against Acuna and the Braves. By the way, I know people say I'm a Braves hater. I just want to point out on our Twitter, we have a tracker in the header tracking Acuna's pursuit of a 40-40 season. And I made that. Tony didn't make that. So I want a little bit of credit for acknowledging Brave success. And that'll be interesting for the Yankees because they're really struggling. And then towards the end of the week, we get Angels versus the Stros. Astros are in a weird spot right now. They had like 3 of their guys just get the COVID vaccine and they missed several games, but we're hot before that. And I think that'll be a good chance for the Angels to sort of prove that they're legit this year and not just the Angels of old that kind of show some flashes, but don't get it done. So that's what I'm looking forward to this coming week.
This can be a discussion later on, but you already brought him up. Acuna, Trout, or Mookie. Who's the best player in baseball right now?
I mean, I'm going to be biased. What do you think?
I feel like with the Acuna, the point is that he's like the new thing. We come from basketball backgrounds. The guy who wins the MVP award is whoever has the best story. And right now you're kind of getting pushed towards him rather than.
I mean, he definitely is like gunning for it. Like I think I tweeted out from our account. Follow us if you're not at 162 podcast. But yeah, tweeted that out on Friday. Midday game, routine ground ball goes to shortstop and Acuna's on second. He takes a decent lead. Routine ground ball goes to short. Acuna hits the third, doesn't stop, just keeps running and runs all the way home. It was just a very, he's gunning for it. I think if you're talking about MVP, until somebody actually surpasses him statistically or in some manner, I don't know how you go against Trout because the dude's just a machine and he's been doing it every year. At some point he gets the LeBron treatment and he's the de facto until somebody usurps him. But yeah,
I don't know if people are watching over your shoulder. People watching over your shoulder. Acuna, he's out of the game. He had an abdominal injury on a slide back into first base.
Oh, I didn't even see that.
So he's not playing right now. So
see, that's a shame. That's the one thing that could really you don't want to. I mean, he needs to be healthy this year and just keep this up. He's putting everything together. In this season, including effort. I feel like that was the one thing that maybe was missing in previous seasons. So hopefully he'll be able to get back to it. Cool. Anything else? Great interview with Keith. Anything else you want to mention?
Well, we talked about this beforehand as well, but like so many teams around 500, like high 400s, 500, that over the next 3 series, it'll be interesting to see if you start seeing who teams actually are. Because you do have play the White Sox and the Red Sox. Somebody's got to win. Somebody's got to lose. Is it going to end up that same way, or will teams start to separate themselves? So,
I think as we get outside of divisions too, for instance, the Phillies have been playing almost all within our own division. Finally, got outside the division, played the St. Louis Cardinals this weekend, and took 2 of 3. I think there's going to be some divisions that just beat up on other divisions and. So you'll start to see some of that disparity in records, but interdivision is always tough.
But 4 of the 6 divisions those teams are all around 500. So
yeah, that's what I'm saying. When you're playing your own division, you know how it is. Yeah. It's like you play them differently than
everybody.
Yeah.
Are you an interleague guy? I'm still I've watched baseball long enough that when they introduced interleague, I was like, wow, this is awesome.
Yeah, I remember that.
And so I still feel like that versus I know for the young guys who the last 10, 15 years, they're like, this is no big deal.
Yeah, I guess I remember too when it was like a big deal. Ooh, they were playing in AL. I guess the NL games matter more to me for whatever reason for the Phillies. I mean, so like if we lose a series to the Angels or something, it doesn't hurt as much. But it is fun to see teams that you don't get to see normally. So I like that aspect of it. Cool. Well, appreciate everyone joining us. This was fun. We didn't talk much about the Braves Cubs, but they didn't give us much to talk about.
There's not much to talk about.
Yeah, didn't work out too well, but this is fun. I'm sure we'll do this again. I think that's probably it for this episode. Thanks to everybody who tuned in. We are now live on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, Google like wherever you get podcasts, you can get this show. And as Tony said before, you don't have to leave us a review, although leave us a review because why wouldn't you? But share this with one person. That's how we can keep growing the show and keep having fun with it. Anything from you, Tone, before we head out?
That's all.
Cool. We'll see you all next time. Talk to you soon.